Hi, I'm Peter High, the president of Metis Strategy and the author of World-Class IT.
Hi everybody, Chris Laping, Senior Vice President, Business Transformation and Chief Information Officer for Red Robin.
So today I was talking about some of the practices that separate great CIOs from less than great CIOs. And the first point was building a solid foundation, making sure that you are covering all of the basics. There are certain jobs that if an IT leader simply is not doing, the ceiling is going to all of a sudden be much lower as to what he or she can accomplish. So that's the first point. The second point related to that is making sure that you find a partner in the organization to collaborate with. For B2C companies, this might be the CMO. For B2B companies, this could be the head of supply chain, for instance. The third point is make yours an organization that is an R&D organization. To a greater extent, bring the research, especially the R part of it, of how IT trends apply to the rest of the organization, and teach that out. Find ways to collaborate with your peers as the heads of divisions and business units or other C-level people to help them understand how their ideas, their plans can be brought to life with technology. The fourth area was making sure that yours is an organization that speaks the language of business, and that language is finance. So as you are developing the metrics to determine whether or not yours is an organization that is successful, use the very metrics that the rest of the organization is using to gauge its success. What is the CEO using? What is the CMO using? What are other business officers of the organization using? And apply those. And the last idea is there is only one customer. Unfortunately, there's this tendency among IT employees and leaders and employees to use this subservient language of IT and the business, referring to colleagues as customers, when in fact customers are the people who provide the organization revenue. Start to think further about engaging the IT employees with external customers so they have a better basis upon which to divine and develop new innovative ideas that are really actually truly top line as well as bottom line enabling for the organization.
What I'd say is, I love what Peter said about the subservient role of IT, and that we work really hard in our organizations to broaden our influence, because, I mean, let's face it, at the end of the day, it's good for everybody's career, and we all want to go to work every day and feel like we're making a difference, and we only do that when we're working on the big stuff. So what we talked about today were, what are the building blocks to making that happen? And the first point I'd make for a building block is fundamentals, and Peter's already talked about that, and the importance of, if we don't do the simple things, if we don't do the things that they expect from us, answering phone calls on the help desk, making sure that our data centers stay operational, they're never going to give us permission to do these other things. The second area is influence. It's incredibly important for us to move ourselves as leaders across this continuum of power and influence. And when do we leverage power? And when do we actually just try to influence outcomes? And I'm always surprised when people say that they can't get something done because they haven't been empowered to do it. That says that they believe in power, and I do believe in the power of influence. And then the third building block is empathy. At the end of the day, it's just so important that as leaders in the company that we show everybody that are our stakeholders that we've walked a mile in their shoes, that we care about the pains that they struggle with, and that we are really interested in working with them to build great solutions.
I think that there are a couple of things that organizations ought to focus on. The first and foremost is communication, and it's resonant in a couple of the ideas both that Chris has been talking about and some of the points that I was making. Being very clear in your communication, very open, sharing both the good news as well as the bad. Of course, when you're sharing the bad, making sure that you have a process and some ideas about how you're going to remediate those issues. Second is being transparent. I think transparency in IT is critical. So many, to the rest of the organization, IT is this black box, and it's this esoteric group of people who think differently, talk differently. Bring IT to the rest of the organization in terms that they understand and in value that they understand. So I think that's a really important aspect of this as well. And thirdly, kind of recapping a little bit of what I said before, think more like the business. Chris spoke so cogently today about the need for the IT leader to think of him or herself as a business leader, not to think of themselves as somebody separate from the rest of the organization. IT is an important and increasingly important part of the business, and not to treat the organization that way and to measure itself that way and communicate itself that way. That's a real shortcoming, I think, and something that a lot of organizations need to overcome.
Well, I mean, this is going to sound really light and fluffy and probably unmeasurable, but I think at the end of the day, the most important thing is to make people feel like they matter, to make your team feel like they matter, to make other leaders in the organization feel like they matter, make your shareholders, your stakeholders feel like they matter. And so for me, I really focus on the personal side of my job and making sure that people get credit where credit is due, that people get guidance in terms of things that are important to them in their careers and how they can advance, and that at the end of the day, that everything I do is with the best interest of the business in mind, which is the best way that I can show shareholders that they matter.